Linnea, and today we're going to explore the topic of mindful eating, how we can make peace with food and listen to our body's signals that tell us whether we're hungry or full. So you'll ask participants, hey, did you know there's a soundtrack inside of all of our heads that tell us things about food? It's important to highlight that we all have this going on and that these voices are learned responses. Some of these voices are helpful, some of them aren't. It might take some work, but it's possible to change the soundtrack in our head from a more negative one to a positive one. So you'll ask for volunteers. It's really important to ask for volunteers so that people aren't put in an uncomfortable position, having to read aloud and not wanting to. So you'll ask for volunteers to read aloud, and you'll give each person one of these signs. Each of these signs has a helpful or an unhelpful food voice on them. Once people have read off all of the signs and showed people which voice they have, you can ask, which of these voices do you think are helpful? Which are unhelpful? You'll ask, which voices make you feel discouraged or frustrated? So those are the voices we're going to put in the trash can. And just to let you know, they're all in red. So the food police, our comfort food voice that says we can fix our feelings with food, and the diet rebel that actually isn't in control at all, but it's just responding to what other people say about them. All those go into the trash. Our helpful voices are the nurturer, which is different than comfort food because it asks about our feelings. It doesn't say you can fix your feelings with food. Our food anthropologist is kind of like our food researcher. It's very objective. It doesn't say foods are good or bad or that you're good or bad. Finally, our intuitive eater helps us pay attention to our body's cues. These are all of our helpful voices. You'll explain to people that just like a car needs gas to fuel all it does, our bodies need food to fuel our everyday. And so we can think about our bodies kind of like a gas tank that we need to fill up throughout the day. Nobody has to tell a baby when it's hungry, right? It just starts crying. But as we get older, we lose our ability to tune into those signals of hunger and fullness. Really, we want to keep our gas tank between 1/4 and 3/4 full. So not waiting till we're starving to eat, but not eating until we're stuffed. It's important to cue into those internal signals. So you'll read the story about Michelle's day, and as you read through it, you'll move this needle to describe where her gas tank is full or empty. The first day, her gas tank goes back and forth between full and empty, and she's not listening to her body's signals. The second day, she's listening to her body's signals, and her gas tank stays between 3/4 and 1/4 full. So as participants point out what they notice about Michelle's day, you can mention that the TV was on while she was eating. This is distracting and doesn't contribute to eating mindfully. You can also point out that she was eating quickly. It takes 20 minutes for our stomachs to tell our brain that we've had enough food, and so slowing down can help us also eat mindfully. I find it really helpful to give examples from my own life and be vulnerable. So telling people, you know, sometimes it's hard for me to eat mindfully when I feel rushed and I have to eat lunch at my computer. Setting goals throughout the week is something that you should take the lead on. Tell participants what your goal is after you do the handouts, and then ask each of them to share if they have a goal. Thanks for leading the lesson on mindful eating. So as you're cooking, it's important to not talk about foods as good or bad, but just to talk about what do we enjoy about the foods, what benefits do they have in our bodies. So pay attention to your own words and how you're using those different voices to communicate about food. Are you communicating with a nurturing, intuitive eating, food anthropologist voice? Or does your voice sound more like the food police? As you're cooking together with participants, share about mindful eating strategies that you practice, or maybe some of the challenges that you have in eating mindfully. This week is that eating is about more than food. It's emotional. It takes a heart and a head integration to effectively do nutrition education. We have to consider the cultural and family and traditions impact of food. So for me, my family's love language is food. To give food means you're giving love. To reject food means you're rejecting love. A participant once told me that when he was diagnosed with diabetes, His doctor said he couldn't eat rice anymore, which is really unfortunate because he could still have rice in small amounts. But for him, it felt like a huge loss. He told me when I was growing up, the rice cooker was always on in my house. Rice was part of every holiday, every memory, every tradition. So it's really important to engage with empathy around this topic. Empathy is very different than sympathy. Sympathy is kind of looking down on someone, saying, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. Empathy is coming alongside someone and saying, wow, I can remember an experience I've had in my life that feels a little bit like that. And so it's sitting next to someone. So the question is, how can we activate our empathy muscles? So think about the fact that eating is emotional in your own life. I know it is for me.